What if Naruto had Swift Release? A series long awaited to be returned or at least continued on the channel. Since even now, almost a year later, I still get comments requesting its return. And if you've been keeping up with my community tab posts, you would know that I have been doing a series of polls to determine which series that are currently unfinished I will be continuing or rebooting and in which order. Obviously, this much loved series of What If Naruto Had Swift Release will be going first, as it got a majority of the votes on a 1,000 vote strong poll, meaning it averaged between 400 and 600 votes, which is pretty intense. It's pretty interesting as well, seeing as I didn't expect you as an audience to enjoy this series as much. But I've been blabbering long enough. Here is the long-awaited Part 4 to What If Naruto Had Swift Release. Jiraiya asks one question to his former teammate. Are you prepared, Orochimaru? With Orochimaru giving off a laugh. Hiruzen would step back and say, you two can't seriously be willing to fight, right? You're teammates. You should be working together. As Orochimaru would give his ever so loved Slither speech about the only thing important is life, and without life there is only death. And what he's doing is to gain infinite life, and so on and so forth, resulting in a confirmed battle between Hiruzen, Jiraiya, and Orochimaru. It would start off with Hiruzen and Jiraiya being fully confident they could easily take out Orochimaru, since Jiraiya on his own, and similar to Hiruzen, would probably be able to do this alone. Orochimaru would at first be kind of nervous, dodging blows, until he could finally end a string of hand signs. And as he does, coffins start emerging from the ground. 1, 2, they're numbered. But why? As the third one comes up and the kanji for 4 becomes visible, Hiruzen would weave hand signs as fast as possible to stop the coffin's emergence. Hiruzen would scream out, "You fool! How dare you bring back the Hokage?" with Jiraiya trying to land a last-minute hit. But as he does, the coffins burst open, with both a wooden dragon and a water dragon erupting respectively. As they come from the coffins and cross each other, they would block Jiraiya's path as he would jump back. Hiruzen now knows they are faced with the first and second Hokages. Hiruzen would waste no time, declaring that Jiraiya should go after the first while he goes after the second, since he knows his sensei's moveset like the back of his hand. If they work together, they should be able to take out the two Kage easily and move on to Orochimaru. Jiraiya would laugh, saying, calling two gods easy. This is going to be fun, sensei, as he would run along, forming hand signs, what seems to be for a fire jutsu. But instead, what emerges is a liquid. This would confuse the first Hokage, Hashirama, as he had known the kanji or at least hand signs for fire, as he stands confused. He was prepared to block a wood attack of his own and opt in for taijutsu when he saw it, but this confirms it nonetheless. He will then throw his wood jutsu, which is an emergence of wood pillars coming from all directions to try and crush his opponent whilst he's talking. How could you use a water jutsu? That won't do anything against me, you fool. You must use fire. But what he didn't realize is the liquid now lined the trees. Jiraiya would say, who said I wasn't, as he would release his hand signs, fire pumping out of his lungs and mouth onto the trees. They would quickly set ablaze as they would follow along the wood, coming across to Hashirama. But nevertheless, Hashirama would jump away, since this isn't that much of a problem, only to be knocked towards Jiraiya. As he's knocked towards, he would turn to see a Hiruzen clone having hit him with the adamantium staff, or King Enma. As he would turn back to Jiraiya, he would be hit by a giant rotating force. He's hit into a barrier with Jiraiya on top of him once again, apologizing for what he just did to the first Hokage as he runs away. Hashirama would say, "Don't run now, you fool. He'll make me attack you from behind." As Jiraiya would say, "Not now, first Hokage. You're done for." As Hashirama would look down on his chest, a seal spreading across his body. Orochimaru would see this and say, "No, I can't let this happen." Alternatively, as this was happening, Hiruzen was having a conversation with his sensei. His sensei, or Tobirama Senju, would have asked how the Leaf has been doing. Has it been doing good? Has he been doing good? How about as Hiruzen would stop him, the Uchiha clan were wiped out. This would leave a stun in Tobirama, as he at a point had hated the Uchiha, but he had let that pass as it was a grudge held towards Madara and his brothers, not the entirety of the clan. The Leaf had lost a great asset, but thankfully they have powerful shinobi, one capable of facing off against the first Hokage, which he'd say, "You have become a powerful shinobi, Hiruzen," as he would look back to see Hashirama thrown into a wall after one of Hiruzen's shadow clones had escaped his view. And so have your students. It looks like this world doesn't need us anymore. For only Orochimaru to go through hand signs to stop the reanimation jutsu, in hopes of not losing the first Hokage's soul. This would unforeseeably undo both reanimations, as both of them are released. Orochimaru would now stand fearful, as he does not know what to do. He does not have any sacrifices for his summons, as you could so call it, so he needs to get away. He would scream, "Now's the time!" as he goes through hand signs really fast, casting a summoning jutsu. Jiraiya would have done the same thing, as he would have seen this forecoming, but Orochimaru's would take place first, and as the barrier around them falls due to his vocal signs, the giant Manda is summoned. But just in the nick of time, Jiraiya was able to summon the iron-bellied toad, which would dispel almost immediately as Manda is summoned on top of it. But at least him and his sensei Hiruzen had both survived. Now comes for one thing. He'd say, "Jump back, sensei," as he goes through the hand signs once again, summoning Gamabunta. Gamabunta and Manda could be seen from the distance, being observed by Naruto before he attacks Gaara, and obviously other individuals throughout the village, like Kakashi, Guy, Asuma, and so on and so forth. This would lead to a clash once again between Gamabunta and Manda, something that seems like a fated battle of sorts, something that will always go on for as long as their contracts exist. The toad versus the snake. But nevertheless, Jiraiya would take this to his advantage. He would have Gamabunta throw as much Toadwell around the area as possible, obviously in different spurts, and Jiraiya would use Gamabunta and his own offensive jutsu to try and get Orochimaru between some of these splurts or even on top of them so that he could then set them on fire using his fire jutsu. But obviously this isn't needed, as Hiruzen is on the floor and would most likely give that type of support to Jiraiya from down below, with the occasional hit on Manda. But nevertheless, I would say this match would most likely have gone in Jiraiya's way, and just as I could predict so, probably Orochimaru would too. Thus, it would cause a retreat. But for him to retreat, he must first reach the ground, since he is currently aboard Manda. But not for long, as he would jump down. As he closes in on the ground, he would sporadically be thrown over it, as he would slam into Manda so hard that Manda would be dispelled. On the other hand, Orochimaru is forced to leave his own skin, having taken insufferable damage. As he leaves his own body, he sees a man in pure green, covered in a green aura, skin turning red, as he hears, "Sixth gate!" But this wouldn't last long, as he would be hit again and again and again. He would be forced to mold his skin multiple times, as he's finally out of chakra. He'd stand on the ground looking up, as his teammate Jiraiya would say, "This is over. Guy, hold him," as Guy would grab Orochimaru around either arm. Jiraiya would go through hand signs as he says, "Chakra Destruction Seal. He grabs Orochimaru's chest and starts turning the seal as it starts spreading across his arms. As it goes down his body, he is grabbed from below. Headhunter? He would think, no, this is a transportation jutsu. As Orochimaru fades into the ground and disappears away. Jiraiya would go over and use a Rasengan on a tree, destroying it completely, saying, damn it, we let him get away, again! Obviously, he would be heated, but nevertheless, there is someone else there. Both Kakashi, Guy, and Hiruzen are all currently present. Guy would feel bad that he couldn't hold Orochimaru, but he turned into like a mud-like substance, so there's nothing he could have done. Kakashi would be comforting Guy when Hiruzen would go up to Jiraiya, saying that, don't worry, Jiraiya, don't be so hard on yourself. At least his arms don't have access to chakra, for now. There are only 3 people that know how to break this jutsu after all. Me, you, and Tsunade. That's unless Orochimaru finds a way to do it himself, which I doubt. So now, we wait. Maybe that's when Jiraiya says, what if he goes after Tsunade, sensei? You don't understand. As he would run off. Wait. As he hears an explosion. He sees Ninetales waving as he says, I'll be right back. That must be Naruto. As he would go jumping across the trees along with Kakashi. They would see countless shinobis like Shikamaru being saved by Asuma from the shinobi he was facing, Kankuro and Tamari suffering their own defeats as they would come across an unconscious Naruto and an unconscious Gaara. Sasuke would be hunched up to a tree just repeating the last things they said. So they became friends. He just defeated an opponent by becoming their friend? How? As this would confuse everyone with an earshot. Sasuke would start laughing as he says, this is insane. He just made him his friend. How the hell does that make sense? With Sasuke standing up, going over to Naruto, everyone would still be watching. Sasuke yet to be aware of their presence. He would kick Naruto, and then he would jump over on top of Gaara, saying, both these idiots just made friends, and now they're sleeping? Both of them should be dead by all means. With him finally being interrupted and grabbed by Kakashi. Guy would then run up to Naruto, being like, Jiraiya, is he okay? Jiraiya checking his seal just to make sure. He'd say, it seems that Ninetales didn't come from the seal. When Gaara would hear this, he would slightly awaken, saying it was a giant toad in a transformation. He would turn his head as he asked, is he okay? With Jiraiya saying, One Tails. Yes, Naruto should be alright. He's still breathing. But first we must get him to a hospital, and you to the Ambu. As he would let off a loud whistle, multiple Ambu would arrive on the scene to see an unconscious Gaara. Sasuke would still be mumbling about how they became friends and all that, giving Jiraiya the sense of Naruto having defused the situation, possibly having defused Gaara. So he would tell them to just take him to the hospital and keep him under surveillance there. He'll sort the rest of this out. As it seemingly fades to black. Days later, Naruto would awaken in a hospital bed. He would first look to his left as he felt a weight on his left leg. Who he sees is a blonde-haired girl in purple clothing. At first it seemed a little odd, but the more he thought about it, he was like, Ino? He would reach for her as she would say something in her sleep. I really hope the dummy is okay. As she would begin to snore. He would at first giggle as he would look to the other side and see Gaara. He'd say, oh, you're awake too, Gaara. As Gaara would finally acknowledge Naruto being awake. He would say that, oh, you're probably wondering what I'm doing here. I had requested to be moved to a room with you since when I'm next to you I can sleep. Naruto and Gaara would then have a conversation about the One Tail's influence on Gaara's life. And Gaara finally feels like he could get all this off of his chest. And ever so many times, Naruto would remind him that there are people that care about him. Obviously, he himself And he doesn't doubt that those two, as he points over to Gaara's bed, being Tamari and Kankuro sleeping on his lap, saying, they still care about you. With Gaara just giggling, saying, so does that girl. She's been here almost every day. The only time she leaves is when the one with the black hair and the fat one come. With him laughing, saying, oh, Shikamaru and Choji come here too? With him smiling, saying, they've been the only ones coming here except those two senseis of yours. Naruto would smile, saying that he's proud that some people care about him, as he would put his hand on Ino's head, letting his fingers run through her hair. She would then awaken to this sensation. She would first look up, saying, Naruto, I like you. As she would then realize what was happening. Unlike usual, she was not in a dream, as her face would turn red and she would turn all spazzy. She would jump up saying, look who you're touching, idiot! As Naruto would laugh saying, oh, I thought you liked me. So I'm a likable idiot then. With Ino growing even more red. She'd say, yeah, I kinda let it slip, didn't I? With Naruto only laughing once again. Ino would say, whatever, as she would just jump onto the bed next to Naruto, hearing a loud, ow! From Naruto, as he hadn't been completely healed. He still had many sore muscles, when they would both just hear a laugh. You would assume that it's Gaara, but no, it is someone standing in the window. It is Jiraiya. He said, I knew you had it in you, kid. I always knew you would get the ladies. With Naruto cussing and throwing stuff at Jiraiya, telling him to stop being a peeving Tom. This would eventually awaken Kankuro and Tamari, saying, oh, so he finally knows? Looking at Gaara, with him only nodding. They would then proceed to leave the room as Gaara would just turn in his bed, pretending to fall asleep. Ino would glare daggers at Jiraiya as he had just ruined her big moment, with Jiraiya laughing, saying, don't worry about it, Tootsie Pops. Could you, with her just saying, no, I'm staying right here. I've been waiting for this, as she would grab Naruto even tighter than she had been previously. Naruto would look at Jiraiya and say, just go ahead, Pervy Sage, I don't mind. With Jiraiya saying, okay. So, you see, some of your friends are in the hospital with you. That Lee kid is still in pretty bad condition, and so is Sasuke now. That curse mark really did something to the kid. With Naruto finally jumping up from Ino's grasp, she would then grab his leg saying, no, just a moment longer, like the little simp that she is. With Naruto saying, Ino, just a second, I need to go check on Sasuke and Lee, as he would run, not even asking where their room is. When he would finally bump into a nurse, he'd say, Sasuke Uchiha and Rock Lee, as she would give the individual room numbers, as she had been attending to them. Naruto would make his way to Lee's room to see Lee up and about, moving around on his hands whilst his legs and back are studded. He'd be like, Lee, you shouldn't be moving, with Lee obviously responding with the average, I must keep up my training, or else guys it's as his back would finally start hurting. He would fall over as Guy Sensei or Mike Guy would break through the door saying, Lee, stop hurting yourself, please! With Lee and Guy having one of their iconic moments, with Lee saying that he must get stronger. Him losing his legs won't stop him from becoming the strongest shinobi without possessing chakra, ninjutsu, nor genjutsu, with Guy pleading that Lee doesn't hurt himself further. He brings up that Jiraiya had said he would go get Tsunade, the greatest healer in the land, to bring back and heal him. With Lee looking at Guy Sensei going, really, Guy Sensei? Did you set this up? With the guy saying, sadly not, Lee, but it's all for you. As they would have, once again, a cry fest. Lee! Guy Sensei! As the room would seemingly flood, obviously for comedic effect. At first, Naruto would be relieved that Lee seems to be okay, and he's curious about this Tsunade person. Nevertheless, he still needs to check on Sasuke. He would this time walk over to Sasuke's room as he would see Sakura crying at Sasuke's bed. He hadn't awakened yet. He had been pretty injured, and he is binded? When he would ask about it, Sakura would yell at him, telling him to back away. This is your fault. You're the reason he's tied up. With Naruto being confused. He'd want to ask why, but she would just screech like always. When Jiraiya would appear at the door, saying, "Come on, kid, I'll explain," as he drags Naruto away. He could hear Sakura's cries as he would walk further. As him and Jiraiya close in on the hospital door, Jiraiya would start speaking. After you and that Gaara kid fell unconscious, the Uchiha kid attacked both of you whilst you were down. The Gaara kid was able to protect you, but had taken more injuries on his own, so we had to sedate the Uchiha since he was a danger to not only others but himself. He had even gotten loose one night and tried to attack the redhead in his sleep. With Naruto saying, "Sasuke? Sasuke wouldn't do anything like that." With them rounding the corner and Ino finally being spotted. Naruto would look at Ino saying, "Is this true?" Ino jumping back saying, "Is what true?" With Naruto knowing that she heard everything. She would give a sigh as she would say, "Yeah, Sakura hasn't left his bed ever since. She seems pretty worried. But it's not your fault, Naruto. He attacked you." Naruto knows that Sasuke is attacking him since Naruto seems superior. Naruto doesn't think himself so, but he knows Sasuke does view it like that. So he has some form of empathy towards Sasuke. As he would say, "No, this is my fault. I should have considered what Sasuke was going through. I did sweep in and take his final blow. But I didn't want him to hurt Gaara. He seemed hurt. He seemed like he needed somebody." As he would look at his hand and say, "Like I needed somebody." With Ino grabbing Naruto's hand as he clenches it, saying, "Don't worry, Naruto. We're all here for you now." As Naruto would say, "We?" He would look to see Kakashi, Jiraiya, Ino, Shikamaru, Choji, Kiba, Hinata, Neji, and so many more people from the Chunin exams standing there, all who had awaited his return. They had all been worried and are now satisfied seeing him to be okay. He would look back to Jiraiya and say, "Forget the Tsunade person. Can she help everyone?" With Jiraiya smiling, saying, "That's exactly what I was thinking. Let's go get Tsunade." As they would walk out the hospital. But before it cuts away to the Tsunade retrieval arc, we would see Naruto and Jiraiya being followed as they meet up at the Leaf Village gate. Now, who are these people following Naruto and the Toad Sannin? Well, you would have to wait till next time to find out, because this has been part 5 of What If Naruto had Swift release. I had really not expected to be having this much fun with this series, but I really am glad that I booted it back up. This is an amazing concept, and I do think y'all would like the catch in the next episode, since Naruto will spontaneously change from this point going forward. And yeah, I would like to remind you that the channel members do help support and sustain this channel. And if you want to see your name up here and even have exclusive content, like a series dedicated to Naruto getting with Ino and being raised within the Yamanaka compound, and things like Yoruichi and Ichigo getting together, maybe consider becoming a member yourself. And yeah, if you don't want to and you just want to know the information of what happens within those series, consider joining the Discord, which should be on screen now and in the description. So without further ado, this has been your boy Six. Peace.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
Subscribe for more.
Yada yada does it.